Okay, chapter 7. So this one here is my introduction to, I guess, corporate world. Like, I had my job at KFC, but I was more team member. But now I'm working in an office in the city. I'm commuting every day. There's large teams, there's departments, there's infrastructure. And so this was my real kind of taste of the real corporate world. What am I? I am 28ish, which is quite weird. So yeah, I've done a whole lot of bunch of like my own businesses up until this point. And so I've gone into the agency world. So I landed a job for a very large agency here in Melbourne, and I was there for several years. And what I really learned there is it was an agency where you would have a portfolio, and so you would be an account manager or a digital strategist, and you would have a portfolio of clients. And in most agencies, you might have like 10, 15, 20 clients that you look after. In this agency, because there was a large team and we could output a lot of work, there was a tech team, a content team, a web team, an app development team, design team. Like, there was large amounts of people making the back office work. It meant that the account managers didn't have to do a lot of the actual work. They were more project managers. And so in this model, we would have portfolios of like 60 to 100 clients, depending on their spend and nurture needs. And you would be on calls with clients every day, back to back, kind of just moving projects along. One for a care call and the other for like project update calls or ad hoc calls, like, we need your logo, the one you sent us doesn't work. And so there was no online apps to manage projects back then. There was no Asana, Monday, Trello. So this company that I work for, we actually built our own custom CRM system. And so the developers built this kind of amazing CRM system that meant that it worked exactly how we wanted to do it. If this is even before Salesforce was a big thing, so you wouldn't be able to like go and plug into like Salesforce or things like that. So this was my training ground for, I guess, high pressure, how to be a leader in big teams, and also the importance of culture. Like the team's energy, the company's vision, the values they stood for. And while sometimes not everything aligned, I think it was really interesting because I actually did a little situation where I left this agency thinking that the grass was going to be greener, and then I came back. Because what I learned there is that the grass is not always greener on the other side of the fence. It's greener wherever the hell you water it. And so sometimes it's better to know the problems you know than the problems you don't know. So while I jumped ship, so to speak, thinking that there was just too many clients, too much was on, this pressure was no good. What I realized is I actually thrive in that environment. I'm very much someone who likes a lot of things going on. I love to be busy. I kind of like the pressure cooker environment. I think this is why I really enjoyed KFC and like the hospitality, because you never know what order's going to come in. You don't know what stock to have on hand. You're kind of like winging it and improvising and just making shit happen just in time. And that really resonates quite well with me. And marketing was a little bit like that as well, where you didn't know which client was going to call, and like their website was down, or they forgot to pay a bill, or they've just been hacked, and you need to go into like crisis mode really quickly. And it's probably where I increased my high functioning anxiety, I guess. And it means that like my floor for like what a normal day looks like is quite high. Like, I can absorb a lot of information, a lot of shit can come my way, and I'm like, oh, that was a chill day, where others might get extremely overwhelmed. And when I don't have a lot going on, I'm like guilty, like I haven't done enough, I haven't been productive, haven't solved enough problems. And so I think because even like in my early days at KFC, and then in a lot of these agencies, there was a lot of stuff that needed to be done. There was lots of emails flowing in, and lots of phone calls. And I can even feel my body tensing up thinking about this part of my life. Like, just, it was when I first got a standing desk, because I was like, I need to be at a standing desk because like I need to be able to move quick and be agile, and like people coming up to me. And I grew in this company quite well. I started as an account manager. I went as a 2IC. Then I was a department manager. And then eventually by the age of, I can't remember exactly when, probably like 29, 30, I was kind of like the general manager, and so the current general manager got let go, and then everyone like was kind of like, Ray would be a great fit for this role, and I really enjoyed it. I loved climbing that corporate ladder, but it also made me realize that I was there building someone else's business, and it was great because they took all the risk. It was well funded, and I could just really get shit done and explore what it was like. There we had like 150 staff members. I think at capacity were like 180. We moved offices like 3 times during the growth of this business. It was really fun. It was like that tech startup hustle culture. Like you could sleep under your desk if you really wanted to, and no one would blink an eye. Is that healthy? No, maybe not. Maybe it led to like some of the burnout, but did it stretch my resilience to work under pressure, move fast, problem solve? Yes, I really feel like this, because the digital agency world for me stretched over like 6 years, 7 years. And it was different companies. So I moved around a little bit. And I really loved having people to get the work done where I could really be like the imagination creative director and be like, I think the website needs to say this, 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 and this. And then a team would go off and get it done. And as I'm saying that kind of dawns on me why I'm loving vibe coding with AI at the moment, because I can have a brain thought, could be a shower thought, and then I prompt it, and it could be a crap prompt, and then AI gets it done. And I think that's what I really enjoyed when I came up with the idea and then was able to like delegate it to a team and they would execute on it. And obviously that took a long time, but now with AI, like you get the thing done in like 20 minutes or 15 minutes or sometimes even a couple of minutes. And so yeah, the agency world taught me a lot, and it was also a great training ground too. Because of the agency that I went to, it did web, Google Ads, social, paid, like it did everything. It was a full suite agency. So I was able to really learn different things quickly and go, oh, that's what you mean by those words, or this is how you deliver a report from an analytical point of view. And we had lots of different businesses. Like I'd be talking to a plumber 1 minute, and then like a hospitality food restaurant the next minute, and then like the marketing director at some corporate large organization. And so I had to shift gears really quickly. I had to like change personas, maybe put some masks on, rock up to a meeting, presenting one way to one client, and then a little bit more relaxed to the plumber who's got you on loudspeaker while he's driving between one job and the other. And kind of like, yeah, mate, it'll be all right, no problem. Yeah, I trust you, that kind of stuff. And then the next meeting would be like presentation and professional. And I think even those days I still would go to work in a tie on some days, depending on which client I was meeting at. I would never do that now. Yeah, so that was the agency era. Lots of different agencies, big teams, smaller teams, medium-sized teams, high demanding clients, low demanding clients. And it also made me realize in this chapter that a lot of business owners don't know a lot about what's going on in their business. They kind of would just hand over the keys and give you their logins to their Facebook and go, you look after it. And it really blew my mind that like a lot of business owners were so relaxed about running a business, and it made me realize that I was over delivering a lot of the times. And like it also maybe frustrated me a little bit to be like, you can actually build a very large business and be this relaxed about stuff. So yeah, it was a really good era of my life. The team bonding that we had there, like I still chat to people and some are really close friends from meeting there. I think because it was so high intensity, there was a little bit of maybe like trauma bonding that happened for us to have like each other's backs. But I don't think it's, when I look back on it in hindsight now, like it is an absolute great part of my chapters to have that ability to go in and learn so much in what I would call like the school of life. Like I got paid a salary to learn a whole bunch of things, and even mistakes, how did senior management not work out? How did this model work better? Integrating new systems and ideas and seeing what other companies were doing. And then, yeah, having to, sometimes do very high intensity conflict resolution, not with just in the team, but also with clients and account managers and salespeople, over promising and team under delivering and managing all those expectations. And so, and while I was in this era of going to through agencies and learning a whole bunch of stuff from marketing, Because I was in like kind of that business tech world, I started facilitating at General Assembly. And so I was teaching marketing courses at General Assembly. I was doing lunch and learns, and I really kind of started activating kind of my facilitator muscle. And I also then launched a podcast. And so podcasting, again, in the in mid 2000s, 2010, sorry, this is more like, where is it? Razor Shop Show, 2016. So in 2016, 2017, I ran my first podcast, which was called The Razor Sharp Show. And it was derived from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The 7th one is to sharpen the saw. And I really like that. I really enjoyed that concept of like, before you need to do a task, like sharpen the saw. And so because I'm in this business world, a lot of business owners, a lot of marketing, I started the Razor Sharp Show, and I did about 100 episodes of that. And a mate of mine, Maddie, also helped me with that. And then we even started teaching other people how to launch their own podcast. And we started another little shoot off business. And this is what I mean by my other video. And if you've been following along, I see opportunities and I jump on them. And sometimes that can create a distraction. And we started teaching people how to launch their podcast. It was called the Podcast Launch Co. So the company that helps you launch your podcast. And we were like going to libraries and presenting and getting people in how to start their podcast. We came up with our 6 P's of podcasting framework, which was all the way from like planning your podcast all the way to, producing it. And I can't remember what all those P's were now. And the last one being promoting. And that became a real big framework. And we were teaching that. And then I did it as a mastermind as well. And a whole bunch of people in my network launched podcasts because of that. 1, because I did it rough and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. 2, I learned how to do it and then turned it into like a little presentation that we were doing at libraries and at meetup events. And then we turned it into like a little bit of a, we'll do it with you. And then I did it as a like do it yourself course that went on Udemy. And lots of people have purchased that. I don't even know if it's there anymore. It's very dated now. It wouldn't be like as good. But a whole bunch of people in my life and people I didn't even know launched podcasts, all because I just took action and started my own podcast. And I had no idea what I was doing. And then eventually I did. And then it's now led on to like me having a second podcast, which I'll talk about in a later video. So this is my digital agency era, learning to facilitate and in fact, there's actually 2 other little projects that happened when I left. When I mentioned before that I left WME, the marketing agency, I went and started a co-working space. It was called the Beehive, and because I could see this kind of trend where people needed to do a bit more of share economy. I think there was a company called Inspire 9 in Melbourne, and they had this thing called drop-in desks where you could drop in for the day and do things. And I kind of just loved that concept. It lent into my sustainability, managing resources. And so we started the Beehive in this little gap year that I took between leaving the agency world and kind of going and doing that. And during that year of doing the Beehive, my mate and I, who were doing the Beehive together, and it was in Carlton, and we had like maybe a space that had 10 desks, and maybe the Beehive needs its own video because there was actually a lot of lessons learned at the Beehive. So I'll leave that maybe for another video. But we even then started building an app called Coffee Buddy to help people discover like cool coffee in Melbourne and things like that. So lots of stuff going on. This is like a 6-7 year window. And so like I bounced in and out of different companies, different projects, going to like meetup groups, meeting other founders, doing like hackathons and presenting at meetup groups and even hosting our own meetup group called Entrepreneur Social Club in Melbourne, and would host that around different parts, in different, Inspire 9 was one of our places, Revolver, co-working was another. And so I was going to co-working spaces and seeing, what they were like. And then that's kind of where the Beehive also come from. So yeah, and co-working wasn't ready for what co-working is today back then. Now you have large amounts of companies, investment groups funding co-working, but this is in a time where working in an office, there was no working from home. No one really kind of got the concept of like sharing one printer or sharing one air conditioner, or sharing, one kitchen, having, lights on, but for 10 people instead of one person. Like, I really love that share economy and being more mindful of the resources. So yeah, big chunk, big amount of things happening in this space, but it was a great training ground for, moving fast, learning fast, making mistakes, and also failing fast. There's a lot of failed projects in here, the Beehive, Coffee Buddy. There's even another one called My Food Market, which was all about food intolerances, because my business partner was starting to get like gluten intolerant. And so we kind of set up a little online shop called My Food Market to buy like, gluten-free, lactose-free, because again, there wasn't a lot of things to offer in that space, because intolerances were kind of like becoming more of a thing, or more known, or more common then. So whenever there was this kind of like gap in the market, my brain went, how do I fill that? So I know I unpacked a lot in this video, but again, I'm always doing these for myself, because even just going through this, a lot of ideas have like landed in my mind, and it's been nice to kind of go down this little memory lane for myself to just remind myself how I maybe did things that I need to do less of, or maybe how I was really good at something and I've kind of lost the confidence in that as well. So yeah, thanks a lot for coming along the ride of these chapters and entertaining me with these as well, as I get them out of my head and into the interwebs. All right, I'll see you on the next video. Who knows what it's going to be about?